Almost every week in the comments, so many of you say to me they are afraid of using their watercolour sketchbooks, afraid they will ruin something expensive with so-called ugly art. Well, I can relate. I used to be the same. How can we get rid of that fear and actually create sketchbooks we love? I'm going to show you today in the somewhat unusual sketchbook tour. By the way, I am Fiona, this is Drawings in a Drawer, and on here we discuss everything watercolour. So if that's your cup of tea, be sure to click on the notification bell so you won't miss any of my future uploads. And now, let's get into it. I think I might have completed one sketchbook. I love to work in several at the same time, so these are mostly incomplete. Call them sneak peeks. Let's start with one that has been featuring heavily on this channel, and it's Bao Hong Hot Pressed. It has been a pleasant surprise, and this wasn't actually the first painting I did in here. I accidentally skipped a page. It's mostly monochromatic with violet, as you can see, and with the addition of some scarlet, just to add some pops of colour. I'm not going to go into the technicalities of watercolour and how I painted this or that, as I do that in most of my videos. I'm going to tell you this is not a real sketchbook. This is the first painting I did in it, and maybe I was still teetering on the verge of making it more messy, but for a while now I had been seeing so much progress in my work thanks to working in sketchbooks that I transferred my painting practice into them almost 100%. So can this really be called a sketchbook anymore? That's debatable, as these are finished paintings. So don't let yourself feel threatened by what you see on some channels and even on mine, because no one sat down here, threw some paint on the paper and worked for 10 minutes and got this result. These were surely hours of work. That's where the perceived perfection comes from. And since I really love this piece, by the way, I know you'll ask in the comments, so the earrings are gold Inca watercolour by Coliro. I kind of kept creating these full spreads that I don't think anyone can call watercolour sketches or super quick studies. And also we're talking of 5 years of practice and blood, sweat and tears, as they say. So if you're a beginner, you can let out a sigh of relief. No, you can make it to wherever you want, but also remember you're at the beginning of your journey, so be kind to yourself. And this is where it all started. The format of the book tends to push you a little to fill every space. I don't know if that's just me. This is also one of the first videos YouTube pushed out to a larger audience, so who knows, maybe that also pushed me to continue in this way. I like painting things that look odd, that capture facial expression and feelings with certain elements that are almost surreal. By the way, what are those rabbits doing in her hair? I think this is also where the rabbit obsession completely took off. I was just noticing today how many rabbits appear in my sketchbooks. My sketchbook practice has helped me discover that I actually love painting animals just as much as human beings. And now I have made that part of my style, or to put it simply, I include them in my compositions almost all the time. Would I have discovered this if I hadn't been working in a sketchbook consistently? I'm not sure that I would have understood it to this extent. So you can see the rabbit obsession continues. By the way, what's the difference between the animal eye and the human eye? Can you tell? In the animal eye, we can rarely see the white of the eyeball, while in human beings, we always can. This video kind of went viral, well, not massively viral, but for a channel my size to get 45,000 views was mind-blowing, and it was definitely not something I was expecting at all. Also because my favourite paintings, and this is another important point, and this painting was the thumbnail for that video, rarely seem to be my audience's favourite paintings. That's strange, isn't it? But it also teaches us that something we might not be too delighted about, some piece that we might not be too delighted about, might have a deeper meaning for someone else. Art hits people differently, and I think that takes some of the pressure off. And here we get a break from the polished and finished paintings. This was a tutorial about values. It was all painted in sepia, just with one colour and with some white gel pen on the mushroom. It was so much fun, but it's definitely something that looks more like what a sketchbook page should look like. Or should it? Because who's to say what a sketchbook page should look like, right? I think she looks like Meryl Streep, like a young Meryl Streep. I love her eyes. She also looks like one of those angels you see in Botticelli paintings. Maybe they're not angels, actually. What am I talking about? Botticelli paintings? Sure, there are angels in Botticelli paintings, aren't there? And I would say I'm about 40% through this one, so let's move on to the next one. I have been working this etcher cold press sketchbook more or less at the same time as the Bao Hong, but I started a few months earlier, and you can tell. I tried to paint that white canvas cover, which gets so grubby, but it didn't really work. Here you can tell that I'm still treating this as a sketchbook. I'm using it for swatching, and I also think my style was also slightly different. I was studying in this sketchbook, and that is also something you should be using your sketchbook for. It's basically meant for that, but you can use it for whatever you want. I was still exploring, even with different mediums, which I haven't really been doing in the Bao Hong, like the silver oil stick by Sennelier, which might have smudged all over the painting. Fortunately, it didn't. But my mindset was different. To me, watercolour moves on different and parallel levels, exploring this medium. There's the finished painting, which can end up being in your sketchbook, but they are not what you should expect when you're still finding your feet in watercolour. And again, don't be fooled by the perfect sketchbook tours on YouTube, because hours of work go into these too, and I think it's important to put that out there. And to me, this was one of my breakthrough pieces because it gave me the idea of sketching with really short time limits. It's not my idea. There's a website called Line of Action, but I started these challenges, which were open to my patrons, and for a while were open to free members as well. You can check all the links down below for all the information and all my levels over there. I actually dreaded the idea in the beginning because I would have to go live to do this, and live sessions can be stressful, but they were the complete opposite. They create a sense of community, and that is and has always been my intention from day one. It's my number one goal to create an art community. And the lives have really pushed that along. So I owe that to my sketchbook. I owe that to my sketchbook. That's another important point. Another reason to not be afraid to use your watercolour sketchbooks are memories. I painted this after having visited Beatrix Potter's cottage, creator of Peter Rabbit, in the Lake District in England. It was such a powerful experience being there. I remember painting this while the same evening we were watching the Beatrix Potter's film while I was staying in this beautiful farmhouse in the countryside. Taking your sketchbook on holiday with you will create a world of memories for you that are far more powerful than photographs, where scents, lighting, background noise, and emotions are forever engraved. And I think that's a good enough reason to put that fear aside and just start using your precious sketchbooks. Another reason to keep a sketchbook is because you need to take notes. These two rabbits were painted in different mediums, and there's no way I would have remembered if I hadn't written it down. And you wouldn't do that on a piece of watercolour paper that's, meant for a full painting. The rabbit to the right was painted with traditional gouache, the one to the left with acrylic gouache. Supposedly, acrylic gouache should be easier to use, but I found that the traditional gouache was easier in this case. I don't know why. And over to the right, I don't really know what I was doing here. Definitely being much less precise and full painting than I was in the Bao Hong sketchbook. And you can see woodland animals keep showing up because I just realised that the more I painted them, the more my passion for them grew. And I love the granulation I obtained with the salt in this one's back. It just literally created itself, and I was amazed and delighted when this happened. And of course, I am very fond of the spread. It represents Scotland to me, and I'm half Scottish. I'm very proud and fond of my heritage. And the Highland cow, obviously, or Highland coo, represents Scotland so much, as well as the thistles. And my childhood was strongly influenced by the belief in fairies, so I had to have a little fairy up there and lots of symbols and things that represent Scotland to me, and this really means so much to me. And you will see that as I keep on flipping through the sketchbook. I have lots of these paintings where you can see what the emotions are or what the person might be thinking, dreams, thoughts, memories, and that is what I want to get through. And it doesn't really matter at the end of the day if other people don't get it, because again, I can always close it and nobody has to see it if I decide that I don't want anyone to see it. This is the last piece in this sketchbook, and I am in love with it. This is a result of the sketching challenge that we had over on the other platform. And at the end, we selected our favourite sketches from that sketching challenge and created a composition. And the theme for the month of October was spooky, but this is not really spooky at the end of the day, except for these two masked women wearing rabbit masks, which can be a bit spooky or creepy. But I just love the fact that I ended up turning all these extra elements into the woman's dress. And this is the kind of thing that I want to paint more of. And again, I don't think that I would have done this if there hadn't been all that sketchbook practice under my belt. So that is why I am suggesting to you today, if you've got those sketchbooks in your drawers and they've just been sitting there, possibly still in the cling film wrap or whatever it's called, that transparent wrapping, just go and grab a pair of scissors and open it up and just get going, because you might not be satisfied with the first few pages, but as you move on, you will be surprised at how fast progress can go in sketchbooks. So please don't hesitate any longer and put all fear and negative talk aside. There are going to be some not so beautiful things, some really beautiful ones, but it's going to be a journey of a lifetime. And I hope I can be here for you for it. And as I mentioned earlier, sketchbooking works on so many different levels. I work at several sketchbooks at the same time. I started this one during the summer, I think, and these were done in the UK. And I never got around to finishing them. They're definitely not as curated as my first or second sketchbook were. And yes, I was too busy to even get round to finishing them. So I hope I will be able to do that one day and remember all the memories, feel all the feelings. This was a view from the plane of the British fields as we were flying back to Italy. And then you will see the beginning of our September sketching challenge. We have a time limit for each sketch, and you can read it right next to each sketch. So 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes, even as little as 1 minute for certain things. And it was so much fun. We do this live on Zoom. This lasted 2 weeks, but now we're down to 3 sessions a month, and we build up to a final composition. I do not share my workspace. It's more of a co-sketching and co-painting experience. And we also chat along, and it's so much fun. And every month has a theme, and last month was the spooky theme, and this month in November we're doing the Viking theme. And you will see a bit of that in the last sketchbook, which is an art creations journal. Again, not very suitable for watercolour, but I needed the large format. And this said, I will leave you because I have been voiceovering this for so long and I had to repeat myself so many times because I made mistakes that I decided just to wing it by the end of it. And I know that if I go on talking anymore, my voice will start sounding croaky. So I will say goodbye for now. I will see you next Sunday. Please leave a comment down below. I love your comments, especially the lengthy ones, but I will really go now. Bye and see you next Sunday.